So hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Exceed Your Expectations podcast, brought to you by Exceed Coaching and me, Lisa Cobble. And thank you very much for joining us again. And as we've said before, these interviews are related to my workbook, How to Love Your Job. And this particular one is all about to get a coach, a mentor, or both. And I'm joined today by the beautiful Debbie Barber, and I would love her to introduce herself to you.
Okay. So I'm Debbie Barr. I'm the director of a business which is the Quality Assurance Network that essentially works with training providers, vocational education training providers, to look after their quality, make sure that they remain compliant, and so on. For me, when I first met Lisa, it was a completely different business. It was going to be an education and training, but thankfully, through the use of coaches and whatnot, that kind of went a bit of a different path, and here we are, much more successful than 2 years ago. So yeah, great.
Music to my ears, my dear, music to my ears. I'm so glad to see it. So on that note, and obviously you've had some coaches in your life, and I'd just like to understand what started you to have the coach in the first place.
So I think certainly back in 2020, when I first started looking, everything had got a little bit overwhelming, I think is the word, in that I kind of knew where I was, sort of knew what I wanted to be, and this gap in the middle was just a complete mishmash of nonsense, and I had no idea how to unravel anything. And I think certainly, I'm a big believer in over the years we've lost our sense of community, of being mentored by elder people in our communities and so on. And I felt that I needed some sort of help. For me, I was always too proud to do that. I felt that asking for help was a bit of a weakness, and you're showing your failures and you don't know what to do and all this kind of stuff. And in the end, it just got too much, and I thought, I need to do something here. I need to get some help. There was a lot of other things going on in my life as well as business at the time. There was some not great things going on, and I needed help generally. So I started looking for, I suppose, just kind of started looking for help in some way or another. I didn't even know what I was looking for. And then obviously I came across yourself. And as they say, the rest is history, really. In that view on looking for help is a weakness soon got dispersed, and and I've had coaches and mentors ever since, and I wouldn't look back now. Definitely.
That is awesome. That's awesome. So I think you touched on the fact that we don't have in our network, in a sense, or our communities, we don't have that kind of relationship with elders and so on that would have been in history, and I think you're right. Even at work, if you've got a day job, then there is that older organization that you can actually touch on, and not many organizations do offer that out as well, which is interesting, or promote it.
They don't, and it's bizarre, isn't it? We're sort of expected now to escalate through our careers quickly, I think. Certainly, and I always go back to this, and some people don't agree with me, but there we are. We're, especially for younger people now, we've got the Facebook and the Instagram age where everything's perfect. Nobody shows the real life, and what you've got then is this whole sort of, I should be like that, and I can't get there, and I don't know what I'm doing. And so you're trying to find someone to turn to mentor you through that. And back in the day, we would have had those. We wouldn't have had the scale of comparison that we've got today. But if we had those ambitions, we would have had, I don't know, maybe we'd have got into an apprenticeship and we'd have been mentored that way, or maybe we'd have got into a family business and been mentored that way. And we would have had somebody teaching us the ropes. Nowadays, we've got this whole expectation that you're almost born knowing what you're doing, and we're really not. And so it's you're going into these work environments, you're expected to know what you're doing without any training, without any coaching, without any mentoring. And it's no wonder really that people are overwhelmed and feeling failure all the time. So not to mention everything else that goes on in lifestyle as well. So I think it's really important to remember that, I think. And when it does come to reaching out to somebody to help you out with that, there is no shame in it. There is no weakness in it. I think it's a strength to recognize that we need to kind of outsource little bits of our lives sometimes.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things I wanted to ask you about as well is when you decided you needed a coach or some support, was it there's something about the person that you connect? I mean, obviously we connected. I
Yeah.
wanted to know, was it something individual about that one person that, you know, you picked there and then because that was what you needed then, and you've moved on and had others? What sparked that decision to go with me?
I think you have to click with somebody. You really do. There's a lot of people out there, some great, some not so great. You know, some who are, for want of a better phrase, really, they are making money out of coaching. And so they'll coach businesses, for example, but they've never actually run a successful business, apart from the fact that they're telling people how to run businesses. And you think, hang on a second, stop here, because this is a little bit of a spiral of nonsense, you know.
Yes.
And for me, I needed to see that somebody was successful in their own right. And therefore, well, what have you done and what can you teach me? There has to be that. I know the word now is social proof. There has to be that proof there. There has to be that validity. And so when I first came across you, obviously you're very successful in your own right anyway. You started coaching, but off the back of the fact that you'd already been successful in other areas of your life and career. So why wouldn't I listen to someone like that? Why wouldn't I take that help? And so I think that's what it was. Obviously, you've got to, as I said before, you've got to click with the person as well. So it's a combination of things. It's a combination of validity, you know, the sort of help you need at the time. Some people will need nurturing and a bit of love, which is where I was at the time when I first met you. And as you move along and you get your confidence back, which certainly is what you did for me, you go, right, okay, now it's time to you know, I need to get someone that's going to kick my backside. Not that you didn't, but you know, there's different. You also go into areas where you think, actually, you know, I've done this business thing now. Coaching has worked really well. Where else can I go that can work really well with a coach? So you think you end up looking at fitness people and mindset and all sorts of financial and because you know coaching works so well. So
Yeah.
I've gone off on a tangent again. I'm sorry.
No, but that's exactly where I was wanting you to go, because I mean, it was like magic, right? But it's because I see that in myself as well. You know, in my career, I've had coaches and mentors, and then you get to a point where you think, well, now who's going to get me to that next level? Who can I trust with me needing that? And sometimes you can look around and think, well, there isn't anybody. And that can leave you a little bit lost. So as you say, sometimes you find people that, you know, you turn out to be fake or just aren't the right ones for you. So yeah, definitely people who have experience, or as you say, they're the right fit for the right time, and that's just perfect.
Yeah, and it's not the point. It's not the fact that the coach ends up being no good for you. That's not the fact at all. What happens is that coach is so good for you that you then are able to climb that next step. So then, you know, you need somebody else that can take you to another step and kind of branch out. Really, it's like creating this tree of life, or one of the hippie word. But it's, you know, it's about that, isn't it? It's about getting the right person for that right step at that particular time.
Absolutely.
And certainly, you know, I think you probably had the toughest job with me because I was right at the bottom and had no idea. When I've been asked the questions, where do you want to be? I've got no idea, Lisa. I don't know. Just fix my life. Basically it, wasn't it? So yeah, that was a difficult one. And I think sometimes that's the hardest step, isn't it? It's, you know, if you've got somebody that knows where they want to be, knows where they are, knows what the gap is, knows the steps in that gap, and just needs kind of a helping hand through it, then that's great. But for someone like me, I had no idea. I knew what I was, and I knew I didn't want to be there, and that's pretty much all I knew at the time. And thankfully, to your good self, we got quite a way through it, didn't we?
We did. And honestly, as a coach, you know, when you see somebody that you've worked with keep flying and keep going, you just like, oh, it's the most proudest moment, you know, because you can see and you know the difference from when you started working with that person. So you know, absolute hats off, you are absolutely flying, and I'm loving seeing the difference in you. There's just such a gap.
Short space of time, really. I mean, excuse me, keep writing my eyes. I'm not crying. It's a hay fever, honestly, and I've had a jab for it. Can you believe? Anyway,
it's a bad day for it, though. It's a bad day. Hottest day of the year in the UK, right? So, you know, to be expected.
Crazy. But yeah, so as I was saying, it has been a very short space of time, really, and that's something that, again, you see a lot of these coaches will say, you know, it can take 5 years, 10 years, you need to have this long-term commitment. Well, actually, yeah, yes, sometimes it can. If you're looking for something like business, whatever, of course, that takes a long time to grow. But when you're looking at things like confidence, mine was turned around in what, 6 months. You know, and then I'm a completely different person now to what I was 18 months ago in many, many different areas of life. So, you know, which is great.
That's
I even changed my
awesome.
hair colour.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to mention that, but yes. Wow. It's a summer
Yeah.
colour.
Which is a reflection of, you know, the fact that I was always very dark haired and kind of, you know, all the time. That's it. It's yeah, completely different scenario, isn't it?
Brilliant. So what's next for you then, Debbie?
Well, so at the moment, I'm obviously growing Quality Assurance Network as much as I can. We did obviously when we first started, we were looking at creating Educati, which still is a thing. But one thing that did open my eyes was to look at gaps and niches and markets and whatnot. And of course, when we first started, it was 2020. Everything was all, you know, there was a little bit of you know, COVID, but we thought we was going to come out of it, and of course we didn't. So we looked at. I remember looking at what the gaps were, what I could fill, and of course there was a lot of gaps in online training, which we spoke about. The issue was then when everybody went online because of COVID, we had a lot of training providers doing the same online stuff. So that at the time didn't work. But what did happen was all the online stuff came, nobody doing online quality assurance. And so here we are. And so that, although the original business has took a sidestep for now, the next thing for me is growing Quality Assurance Network, which at the minute, it's getting good. It's getting really good. So yeah, I'm getting a good client base on that, working really well, turning some centres around that have, you know, they've pretty much been kicked out of their awarding bodies and their exam boards, and I'm turning them around and they're flourishing, which is great. And that's given me good reputation, which is then spiraling. So that's the career element. With regards to what else is going on, and this for people that don't know me, you probably won't understand this, but for you, Lisa, you know me, you knew my absolute lack of confidence. I have just booked a holiday to San Antonio Bay in Ibiza for next year.
Wow.
I'll be 42 and I'm off to Pasha and Cafe Del Mar, and I'm off clubbing with the young'uns.
Awesome. Oh, that's even more
That's
proud
good
now,
fun.
right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's these things that are getting better, that are really really improving. Fitness and health obviously is really improving. I've sort of went, right, you know, this has been good for career, so I'm going to go and get a coach for fitness and mindset and so on. And that's what I've been doing. And so working with coaches, I think has been, it's been the key thing. I would never, had I not looked for one initially, I would never be where I am. I know I'd still be stuck as I was in 2020, just skint, miserable, just not great. So yeah, I'm certainly, well, it's not going to, that bit's not going to change. I will always have a coach or a mentor. I think it's going to have to happen, something to kick me every now and again. I think we all need a kick, don't we? Every now and
We
again.
do, yeah. I mean, often we can think we can do it on our own, but I mean, literally a couple of weeks ago, I had a tarot reading, and somebody had said to me, "You can't do it on your own. You know, the cards are telling me you can't do it on your own." I was like, "Wow!" And all sorts of things started happening straight after. You know, people pointing out, coming to help and advice, and it's like, do you know what? I've really got to listen to the universe and really do, you know, what I say and do the same thing. And like I said, you can get to those gaps.
Yeah, and we can't know everything, and that's one thing that actually one of my coaches at the moment said the other day. You can't know everything, and you can't, certainly in business, you can't try and do everything. You cannot work, and you'll know this phrase, you cannot work on your business if you are in the business, because you can't take that step back and have a look at the whole umbrella and see what's going on. So certainly delegation has been key for me. So instead of spending days and weeks sitting here looking at systems, getting them wrong, getting frustrated, back to square one, I'm just going to, know what, I'm going to go on Fiverr, I'm going to find someone that knows what they're doing, I'm going to pay them by the hour, and they're going to do my system for me. Which then I just sit back and do what I'm good at, which is the actual quality assurance, while in the background these systems are going, yeah, we'll have another booking, we'll have another one. And that's something I would never been able to do 2 years ago. I would have sat there going, I can't do this, and then just binned it because I couldn't do it. And I don't need to do it. There's somebody else that can do it, and I can just go and do what I do best and do what I enjoy. Because there's nothing worse than getting up in the morning going, oh gosh, I've got to go back to work. And there's nothing worse than that. There really isn't.
Yeah.
So now I can just, all the stuff I don't like, somebody else does it, and I get on with the stuff I like, which everyone's a winner.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's something Rob Moore has written about, called life leverage, and it is all about, you know, those tasks that you don't like, you don't want to do, you can farm out, and then your business is a much happier place. And that's why I call mine my happy place. You know, I can sit with my laptop and I'm just in my own world, and I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And the people that I do get into these systems and things, that's their happy place. So I think, well, I'm you know, they're making money by doing what makes them happy, so it's all good.
It's win-win, right? Awesome. Debbie, I really want to say thank you so much for spending time with me today. It's absolute pleasure to talk to you and see the difference in you, but also hear your side of the story now that you're way different to where you were in 2020. It's just a joy. Thank you very much.
That's all right. No problem at all.
All right, so thank you very much for joining, everybody. There'll be another episode talking to another amazing superhuman person very soon. Stay tuned.